You have been fed a lie, because real estate experts say it's actually unbelievable how fast rents in Munich exploded, and that the cost of living crisis will get worse and worse because properties will get more and more expensive. The public opinion is obvious, right? Rents and property prices here in Germany have been more expensive than ever in history. But what if I told you that they are all wrong? Because we know something that all these media juggernauts don't. And in about 10 minutes, you will also know that real estate here in Germany is cheaper than ever before. Join me and you'll be surprised. Basically everyone, except the handsome guy that just made the intro, agrees that real estate is getting more and more expensive. So I can understand if you're a little skeptical right now. But hear me out, because the OECD published a real estate affordability index which shows the surprising result that properties here in Germany are more affordable, cheaper if you will, than ever. How are they calculating this index exactly? With three different factors. The first and most obvious factor is property prices. If property prices rise, they get more expensive and less affordable. No explanation needed here, I think. And oh boy, did property prices rise in the past. The GREX, the German Real Estate Index, shows apartment prices in the top 7 German cities: Berlin, Cologne, Düsseldorf, Frankfurt, Hamburg, Munich, and Stuttgart, tripled since the year 2000. Now this index only includes apartments and not houses, and only the top 7 cities and not the entire Germany. But we'll come to the critique of the Real Estate Affordability Index later on. For now, I want you to focus on the years 2022 and 2023, in which property prices crashed faster than during the global financial crisis. And when property prices fall, affordability goes up. Why did property prices fall in 2022 and 2023? Because of the second factor in the OECD Affordability Index, mortgage rates. Most of you probably remember the mortgage rates from the late 2010s and early 2020s with right around 1%. Good old times, considering we quadrupled mortgage rates in early 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Not necessarily. For homeowners, it's bad because they have to pay interest out of their own pocket. But real estate investors can deduct interest from their taxes. So when property prices fall because mortgage rates go up, that is actually a beneficial scenario for real estate investors. That's what we've been telling you for years here on this channel. And if you want to start your real estate investing career together with us, feel free to book a free meeting with us on perfinex.de/meeting. If property prices go up, real estate becomes less affordable. If mortgage rates go up, real estate becomes less affordable too. So far, so easy. But there's one last factor in the OECD Affordability Index that challenges the prior two factors. I'm talking about salaries. Let's imagine property prices rise 10% year over year. That means they are getting more expensive. I hope we can all agree on that one. But are properties getting more or less affordable in this example? We don't know until we look at salaries. Because if salaries would rise by 20% year over year, real estate would get more affordable despite properties getting more and more expensive. So, let's take a look at salaries here in Germany. In red, you can see the nominal salaries, which are almost always rising, except during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. But nominal salaries don't mean much because they ignore the rising costs of living, the black bars. So what we are interested in, and I'm thankful the OECD did a really good job here, the blue bars, real salaries, because they deduct the inflation from nominal salaries. Now that we know how the OECD Real Estate Affordability Index is calculated, let's take a look at it. We start at 171 in the year 1980, the most unaffordable real estate has ever been in Germany. Why? The probably biggest reason is mortgage rates. You might think that mortgage rates are high right now because they are almost as high as they were in the beginning of the 2000s, but if we zoom out a little more and go back in history, you can see that mortgage rates were at 11.5% in 1980. 11.5%! Can you imagine that? These days, everyone cries if they get 3.5% interest, and 40 years ago they paid 11.5%. Let's put this into perspective to show you the night and day difference. If you get a 250,000 euro mortgage with a 3.5% interest rate, you will pay 180,000 euros interest over the entire mortgage lifetime. Quite a lot of money, which, again, homeowners have to pay out of their own pocket, and real estate investors can deduct it from their taxes for up to 75,000 euro tax benefits. Now, what do you think? How much total interest would you pay with 11.5%? Is it more than 3 times as much because 3.5 fits more than 3 times into 11.5? No. Luckily not that much. That's not how mortgage math works. But you pay more than twice. More than 360,000 euros in interest to afford a mortgage worth 250,000 euros. And if that's not unaffordable, I don't know what is. And for all you math geeks out there, why is it not 3 times as much interest? Because you pay 2,700 euros a month instead of 1,000 with the higher interest rate, your mortgage is paid off a lot faster, 20 years versus 35 years. And that's why your total interest is lower than 3 times as much. And over time, with falling mortgage rates, real estate here in Germany became more and more affordable. And you can see the graph going down until the early 2010s. Right out of the global financial crisis, the start of the biggest real estate boom Germany has ever seen. Here's the German real estate index GREX again, which peaked in 2021 with average property prices rising by 14.2% after inflation. An insane increase, which we now know was the turning point. Because in 2022, property prices began to fall, which is positive news for the OECD Real Estate Affordability Index, because it decreased from around 140 to 110 where we are now. And it's not just the OECD. The German Economic Institute is also calculating the affordability of real estate on a regular basis and comes to the same conclusion with their index. Which makes me wonder, how legit are all these indices really? With all due respect for the OECD and the German Economic Institute, I think they're doing a phenomenal job with their 3 factors. Don't get me wrong. But they are missing 4 key points, in my opinion. I've said it in many videos, and I say it again. There is not one real estate in Germany. There are the top 7 cities, large cities, small towns, the back end of nowhere. Do we really want to put Berlin or Munich with millions of inhabitants into the same basket as Arnis, the smallest town in Germany with only 300 inhabitants? I don't think this makes sense. And it doesn't make much sense either to compare all different types of properties with each other. Look at the house price index of the largest mortgage platform in Germany. All types of properties have gone down in value over the last 2 years. But new constructions are still on an all-time high. Can we agree that a new construction in Munich is a whole different ballgame than a 100-year-old building in Arnis, if Arnis is even 100 years old? The next key point is a big one, because the generation before us got government benefits that were huge. And that's what she said. There were increased tax benefits because buildings depreciated with 5% instead of 2%. Homeowners could deduct their mortgage interest from their taxes, at least partially. We had the Eigenheimzulage, one of the biggest government programs in history to help people buy a home. So many benefits that we can't get anymore. And of course, there was no ground purchasing tax. Depending on the German state you want to buy your property in, you have to pay anywhere from 3.5 up to 6.5% ground purchasing tax these days. Yes, that's right. If you want to buy a property with the money that you paid taxes on already, you have to pay taxes again, shooting homeowners more in the foot than real estate investors again, because they cannot deduct it from their taxes. But that's not the point. The point is that homeowners didn't have to pay any ground purchasing tax in the 1980s. Only in 1997 there was a German-wide 3.5%, and now, since every state can decide the ground purchasing tax on their own, every single state except Bavaria increased it over the years. Let's take Saxony and Hamburg as an example. Both states increased their ground purchasing tax from 3.5 to 5.5% last year. So homeowners did not just get over the last 40 years because they have to pay ground purchasing tax now, they get twice because real estate investors get up to 42% tax benefit while homeowners get zero. All my critique points so far could be measured in numbers. You could keep track of prices for every single location. You could calculate how much more expensive a property is because any given government subsidy went away. And a property gets 6% more expensive if Berlin introduces a 6% ground purchasing tax. All of these could be measured, and I'm sure they would improve the index. But my last point on the list is a little more complicated. I'm talking about regulation that keeps increasing and increasing. Let's take the example of the Wohnimmobilienkreditrichtlinie, the Mortgage Credit Directive that the EU introduced in 2016. The goal with this law was honorable: to protect the consumer against taking too much debt, to harmonize the criteria in which mortgages are given, to prevent real estate bubbles, and a lot of other things that sound nice. But in reality, this just means that less and less people qualify for a mortgage than before. And the same with the banking regulations Basel I to III, which introduced equity and liquidity requirements for banks here in the EU. We could discuss now if this should be included in an affordability index, because it's not necessarily an affordability issue. But less people are able to buy a property than back in 1980 because of increased regulation. There's no discussion about this. What did we learn in this video? The public opinion for many years now is that property prices and rents here in Germany are exploding. That is true on a nominal basis because we are not constructing enough living space. So, property prices go up. It's a supply and demand issue. But do properties get more or less affordable independent of the nominal price change? That's up for debate. And that's why I want to know your opinion. So let me know what you think down below in the comments. And if you agree with me that real estate can be an awesome investment, then you can book a free meeting with us on perfinex.de/meeting, so we can help you to kickstart your real estate investing career.